Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Juliet Altenberg, and I am the district chair of the membership committee for District 7390. I know some of our neighboring districts will also be attending this. Feel free to rename yourself to show us maybe what club you're from District 7390, or if you're from a neighboring district, feel free to mention that as well. We are really, really happy to have you. Our district membership committee got launched as a committee last July. The committee members felt it was important to meet every week, or not every week, every month, the fourth Tuesday of the month at 6:30, because we really want to get some traction with supporting one another and the clubs in our district with growing membership. At each of our meetings, we have promised one another that we will make time for at least one educational presentation, whether it's from a club that we've seen grow in numbers or even from a neighboring district. And so I got clued in by past district governor Anna May that she was previously district governor of a high-performing district, District 7220. And if you look at their statistics, they are a growing district. So I reached out to Marilyn. Anna May gave me the contact information. We had a fabulous conversation. And Marilyn and her membership team are here to share with all of us their success stories with how they're growing membership. If you have any questions during the time that the three presenters are sharing with us, feel free to put them in the chat. This is being recorded, and the recording link will be available within the next 24 hours on our district YouTube channel. We will open this up for Q&A after each success story and at the end. So thanks again for being here. And Marilyn, I will now hand it over to you, and you can introduce yourself and your team members. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'll get started first, and then we'll transition to the other two. My name is Marilyn Evie Cruz, and I am the Assistant Governor for Washington, D.C. and the immediate past president for Washington, D.C. And I'm going to talk for 3 minutes and share my success story with all of you. So Washington, D.C. is the oldest, largest, and most expensive club in the nation's capital. However, last year we grew by 22. We brought in 31 new members, lost 9, and out of the 9, 3 had passed away. So we technically really lost 6 and grew by a net of 22. One thing I did want to notice is that our annual attrition, because we are in the nation's capital, a very transient city, is 17 members a year. But by December 31, we had already reached that attrition rate. So knowing that by December, we had already brought in 17 members, the rest was going to be all plus. And we covered all of our replacements mid-year. So that's important to know when you're looking at your membership stats. Some of the successes we have is that we have an orientation for prospective members every 6 weeks. It doesn't matter what the situation is, we have that every 6 weeks. It's always on calendar, and we always have our membership committee members cover it. And in that, it's a 1-hour session. So it's an information session about our club. So it's a variation of Discover Rotary and info session where we invite prospects for a short networking session, followed by a presentation on our club and overall Rotary. As a result of those who come, about 50% join our club, and usually within weeks. Immediately after the orientation, we send the prospect an email. One thing to note is communication. Emails do not go unanswered in no more than 48 hours. And if somebody on the membership committee is on vacation, we have an automatic reply on the membership email account with all the information needed, so we leave no stone unturned. When the person joins the club, we immediately assign them to a mentor or guide to accomplish their red to blue badge transition. And one of the reasons we do that is because 1, folks don't want their ugly red badge. 2, so folks can know who our new members are within our club and identify them. And 3, so they could get integrated in the club. So it's a 10-step guide. And some of the things on the guide are like serve as a greeter 2 times during a meeting, or, you know, twice, work the raffle, visit another club, attend a board meeting, join a committee, do a new member talk, and so forth. And then once they complete that, it's based on an honor system, 4-way test. They get their blue badge, and we do a huge celebration in the club. We also have a new member class captain. So around mid-year, we appoint a class captain for the new class, so they could do some of these things together and start bonding as classmates. And I guess a big thing is we continued the hybrid meetings, which we knew post-pandemic, if we did not do that, we might lose members. So we made it work so our members could stay engaged, for those who didn't feel safe to return to in person when we did. And so nothing flashy, nothing complicated, just simple strategies effectively executed. So that's my story. And I'll now give the floor to Pallavi.
Could I just interject with a quick question and some of the others?
Sure.
So how many members do you have in your club, Marilyn?
We currently have 138.
138. So that's a decent sized club. And these orientation sessions that you give every 6 weeks, did you say those are for prospective members, not new members, or a combination of both?
Combination of both.
Okay, interesting. Any other questions for Marilyn before we go on to our next presenter? Okay, thanks.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me, Kalili? Good, good. Hello. Well, I'm Pallavi Gowda, and I am a medical doctor by profession. I'm also a U.S. Army veteran and a public health avid. I have an avid interest in public health. I've done my master's in health administration. Why I mention all of that is when I started Potomac Passport Club just a few months ago, I was president of Potomac Rotary Club previously. And when I started this new club, I was looking to be part of a Rotary that fit my work schedule. So geared towards working professionals. Passport Club is an innovative, newer model of a club that Rotary has started to promote. But one of the things I've noticed most is that not many people know much about it, including, I know when we're in the Bahamas, I was talking to our Rotary International president's wife, Heather McAnally, who was saying, I'm from a Passport Club and nobody knows what it is. And so that's one of the things that I also experienced. What works for a passport? Well, what is a Passport Club? So it is a club that, first of all, you can be from anywhere. So there's no limitation in terms of geography. We meet less than the average times that other clubs meet. So we meet once a month in terms of club meetings, and it's a hybrid platform. So anyone who wants to join who's not in the area can still join. And I think one of the most important hallmark features of what attracted me to it is that for community service projects and for like social hours, happy hour, whatever you call it, you collaborate with neighboring clubs. So one month you may work with a certain club, and then another month you work with another. And so you're not actually organizing everything on your own, because I did that last year, and because I own 3 companies and I'm a single mom, it was a lot of work. And so if you don't have the collaboration of everyone in your board, the reality is it gets put on the president. And so that was a lot. So I said, I don't want to leave Rotary, but because I love it so much. Everyone I know knows that I'm passionate about Rotary, but how can I make it work for my schedule? And that's really how this came about. The famous Colin Powell said, a good leader when people follow you out of curiosity. So I'll be honest, we have about 34 people in our club. About 32 of them said, what is Rotary to me before they started? So, and then the others said, wait, women are allowed? So you know, it's one of those things that they see me having a passion for it. And I really just, I celebrate the professional networking that's done through Rotary. The collaboration is extremely important. I heard earlier that one of the key success factors for one of your clubs is really geared towards the networking aspect. And I do think that that's profound. And it's just a matter of doing good, professionally networking and making an impact. And people see that when you're passionate about something, they're like, oh, what is that? What is that? Tell me. And so that's kind of how my experience has been. I'm the charter president. So when we do like a fireside chat or, you know, I spend more time going through a bit of the history that is necessary just so people are aware, the due structure and all of that. But, you know, I know that there is a burning, if I can say it that way, for people to want to get involved and do good. Many people are just, you know, maybe tired from all of their responsibilities in just life, I guess, right? Whether it's family or work, and just the altruism aspect of being involved in an organization where you do good is really appealing to people, but they just don't know how to fit it in their lifestyle. They don't have the bandwidth for it. So finding new ways, or if it could be in the form of a satellite club, things like that, ways to make it work. I think that's really what my success story revolves around. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions before we go on to our next speaker? I know our district does have a passport club, and Carmen Calderon, who is on the screen, is the president of that.
Oh, great.
Maybe we'll entertain questions then at the very end. So I guess Justin is next.
Thanks. I want to start by kind of introducing myself and give my Rotary story, and then I'll get into our club. So I was part of the First County Interact Club. I live in Frederick, so I'm not too far from your district. I always knew I wanted to get back into the Rotary Club of Frederick. I did like 10 years later. In 2014, I was one of 30 selected from the country to go to Chicago for the Young Professional Summit. That totally changed my Rotary journey from being able to go all over pretty much the country, well, the East Coast. I've gotten to go to Atlanta to help a Young Professional Summit. We did 2 in our district. I went to High Point, North Carolina. I got to go to Myrtle Beach. But then I also got to go to Seoul, Korea for international, and I went to Atlanta and Houston for the conventions also. I went through the Rotary Leadership Institute, and one thing that I love sharing Rotary, so I'm up to about 50 people, give or take, that I have personally brought into Rotary, sponsored into Rotary. I've been a Rotarian for 11 years, and I actually got to become president of the Rotary Club of Frederick. It was the largest club in our district. At the time when I was president, I want to say we were at 190. And that's where things changed. And I helped found a new club in Frederick, which created the 7th club. So some things happened during my president year. We don't have to get into them, but we created a new club. We started with 25 members and we are up to 115. We are about to induct 2 other members, and there are 3 others at board level pending. Our club is called Key City Rotary. We are 70% female. We are 67% under the age of 50. We meet the 2nd and 4th Thursday for lunch. We have a standing happy hour, and we have a service project, and that makes our 4 meetings. So that's what we do, and that's Key City. We had, and one thing that Marilyn and Pallavi, we talked about is we had a Discover kind of Rotary event. So our first club meeting, by the way, our club is 1.5 years old. So for our very first meeting, we had 150 people with balloons and music and all kinds of things going on. We invited the newspaper. We had our county executive. We had all kinds of things happening. And so in July, we had a Happy New Year celebration. So we had an MC, again, less balloons, but still balloons. And we had a countdown and made it more of a event, like a New Year's event than a club meeting. But yeah, that's us.
Great stories. So we're going to open it up to some Q&A here from our audience. Ask away, everyone. You can raise your hand through Zoom or raise your hand on the screen and unmute yourself and ask a question. Yes, Chip.
This is for Justin. The club that you formed, were you getting resistance from the Frederick Club that you needed something that was more innovative, or what was the? And you don't need to get in the whole thing. I just
No, and there was an argument about, it came down to where we ate. In all seriousness, I mean, I know that comes out and it's like, oh yeah, okay. And again, there was much more that happened. But myself, actually the treasurer and somebody that I had tapped to be president, we were having breakfast talking about Rotary, and it was, what does it look like if we left? Like, what does it look like if we started a new club? And came back a month later, the three of us, and had breakfast and said, this is what it looks like, and started listing people, making calls, and doing that stuff. And Chip, it honestly, we scratched an itch that we didn't know needed scratching. Because we had, out of the 25 that started the club, 18 were Rotarians and 7 were brand new, because they liked how we were meeting, and they liked our store, like everything. We didn't know that we were going to blow up the way that we did. The county executive that I talked about coming is now a member because I sponsored her. So we're doing something right. And here's one of the other things that I will share with you all. Our first president, her name is Megan DeLauder. Megan has 2 children. We are a very family-friendly club. She ran a meeting with her child on her arm, and she thanked us because she was like, I couldn't have done this at the other club. And that's the type of impact that we're having.
Of your 90 members after you started, are a majority of them new Rotarians that you're getting?
Yes.
Okay. That's really exciting. So that is. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. I was going to say, it's like, at the time, it's like 75. We've had some transfers, just because of timing and that, but really it's all new people. I actually can't believe we don't have more men, because we are 70% female. Like, it's shocking to me.
Thank you.
What are the dues for each of your clubs? That's a major topic of discussion among our clubs. And a lot of us, even like post-pandemic, the restaurants were forcing our clubs to spend so much on food and commit themselves, which drove up the dues. It was more difficult to pay as you go. So give us an idea of what your dues are for all 3 of your clubs.
So it's funny you mention it, because I just talked about this at President-elect training. One of the things we had to do post-pandemic last year was reinstate prepaid meals. So we are one of those traditional clubs, 112 years old, meet at a private club, and we needed to do that. And I even panicked. I didn't sleep the night the email went out, thinking everybody was going to resign, and thankfully no one did. So one thing we did do is pre-pandemic, we used to pay about 60% of our meals. We know that post-pandemic, that was not realistic, but we still wanted to have an incentive for folks to come back in person, because after we did a survey, that was what most people wanted. They wanted the fellowship and to return that. So we thought 3 prepaid meals a quarter, which was not nearly to 60% like before, was a good counterbalance. So we went from paying $370 in prepaid meals to $105, and then our dues are $265. So per quarter, it's $370.
$370 per quarter.
So ours is 300 per quarter. We just formed in July, and so we had a lot of startup costs, and this is something that I am in communication with just RI in terms of improving the process of people who want to start new clubs where most of the members were not prior Rotarians. So I would have to say that, startup costs of putting in an application, as well as the legal costs to create the entities, the charity club, as well as the administrative club account and entities, it all takes initial cost. So, but anyway, we are at 300 a quarter.
Did you
Does
say
that include, do you meet for food? That 300 a quarter seems a lot if it doesn't include food.
So it does not include food, but what we do is, I should say that loosely, because for right now, since we started, we've only met virtually. But when we do meet in person, we're planning to bring in food that will be more like from grocery stores. It's going to be cost effective. It's not going to be a restaurant style. It'll be in a conference room. I'm moving to a new office, so that place has a conference room and a little kitchen. So we're finding budget friendly ways to do it. When we did our charter night, we probably spent the record lowest. So I think there is a lot of discussion and funds related to food and Rotary, and I realize that the food and the heart are very linked, I guess. But yes, so we're going to find budget friendly ways to cover food.
And I'm sure in the Washington, D.C. area, everything's more expensive than it might be in central Pennsylvania.
It is, and I also emphasize to the group that our club is largely it is a lot of they're leaders in the sense that many are they own their own business, or they're hospital administrators, or whatnot. And so shoot, what was my point of saying that? Oh yeah, and many of them have their own nonprofits. So when it comes to putting together a global grant, the money just doesn't grow out of trees, right? So I emphasize to them a lot of the funds is going to be used for good. Unlike other clubs that may emphasize very expensive restaurants, I want our funds, even though the dues may seem high, to put in a global grant. Your club has to, if you're the sponsoring club, has to put in $35,000. So we need these funds to do good, is what I emphasize, basically.
Thank you. And then before we get to Jim, Justin, if you just want to weigh in. Yeah.
$350 for the year, and then lunch is $16 or $7. We have two different options, so we pay as you go.
Thank you. All right, Jim, you've got your hand up.
I have a question for Marilyn. You mentioned a new member class captain, and you do that every 6 months. You pick a new captain. Is there do you have like a job description or an objectives package for that individual? I would love to see that, because I really enjoy that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we normally, it's informal as far as the selection goes. We still do fireside chats, but they're more, fun. We just look for a member's home with a place or fire pit, but then, you know, we have wine, cheese and whatnot. And that's where we let them choose who the class captain wants to be. And that's where normally that gets selected at the first. We do them twice a year. So I'll
And
send
what
that
do
your
they,
way.
what do they do then for that 6 months? What are their responsibilities?
So for the remaining 6 months, it's making sure they all do their red badges together. I remember they all went to complete a service event together. They all went to the neighboring Rotary Club to visit, because, you know, one of the things is visit another club. They went in a pack. They all joined the same grants committee together. It's kind of like to, you know, engage amongst, they're in the same class. They're all new members. And so they kind of, you know, chat and discover the club together. It's for fellowship only.
Cool, thank you.
And Tom Jones, you have your hand up.
So this is mainly a question for Justin, but it could be relevant to the other two speakers. So thanks for your presentations. One topic that's near and dear to me right now in the Hershey Club is how do you think about membership in the context of younger adults, professionals with younger families, especially in a setting where some members, you have largely attracted new members because of starting up a new club, but trying to integrate different generations of Rotarians and still manage to provide something that will work for people where they could potentially do service activities with family members, attend a meeting with family members. So I love your story about the person that conducted a meeting with a child in her lap. That's a challenge. Can you talk more about the integration of generations in your events and how well
Sure.
that's going, things that work and don't work?
So we have, our age range is 28 to 78. Obviously, I told you where the most of our people fall, which is the younger with families. When we started, we wanted to make sure that we were family oriented. I remember us sitting down, there's 25 people, you know, around the table, 20 of us. And one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that it was okay to bring the family. You know, the club that I came from, it's said that it's okay, and you try to encourage that. But we're like living that, Thomas. Like we're making it a reality for people. And so the members, I'll say, that are to this side of 50, have I don't want to say bought in, but we have their buy-in and they enjoy it. So like when we have our holiday party, it was all the kids kind of came and played together and we're talking and everything's trying to think how I want to say that. I've just noticed that during service projects, because that's one of the other things that we do is they plan maybe an adults only service project, but then there's a kid friendly service project as well. And so we've done both. You know, we have our standing happy hour, but we also do things where it's kids are invited. So did that answer any of your question? Am I rambling?
No, it does, and that's very helpful. And I would point out, by the way, those kids that are attending your service events could be your future members.
They are, it's funny because they have shirts on that say future Rotarian on it. So we try. We're trying.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I found challenging, to put it very kindly, last year. So when I was president of the club, it was Wednesday mornings at 7:30. Well, my daughter's school starts at 7:30, so I was running a Zoom meeting and dropping her to school, as I had my other child with me, and then coming to a meeting all during the meeting, and there was no one to take over to run the meeting. So really, I think it's about, you know, getting your members engaged early and, you know, dividing up the work so it's not all on you know, one person or handful of people, and And that makes it more fun, right? Like then the fun aspect, the humanitarian aspect really shows. And two things I'd like to mention is, one is in terms of our dues, no one is ever turned away for financial reasons. If they can't afford it, we work down to whatever they can afford. I think it is far more important to have the members there. We have someone who's wheelchair and oxygen dependent in our club, and she is trying to make ends meet when it comes to just life, right? So I employed her. I brought her onto my I own my own practice, medical practice, so I employed her as well as brought her into Rotary, and she pays like a few dollars just to meet the requirement for so she can be I didn't want to make her an honorary member because I wanted her to be on the board and feel confident, but that's one thing. The other is that you know, being on the board of Rotary International Mental Health Initiatives, the Rotary Action Group, it is important to also see the Rotary activities as a form of mental health, right? So getting engaged in the community and kind of keeping an eye out on members to say, hey, we haven't seen someone in quite a while. Why not someone reach out to them? And so things like that. When we talk about sound mental health, a social aspect that Rotary brings, aside from the altruism and the positive medical and mental aspect of helping others, we do a lot more than we realize in Rotary, and we just have to showcase that more to community members by inviting them in and sharing what we do. So be proud of what you do.
I wanted to answer in a different perspective. I was in Rotaract, and when I was Rotaract president, the club president at the time said, how can we get Rotaractors to transition in our club, develop a young professionals membership category where 20 members 20 members under 35 get reduced dues at $125, and then the lunches, instead of paying 35, we would pay 20. So I transitioned at the age of 29 and fully benefited from the young professionals category until I aged out. And by the time I was 35, I was pretty good in my career where I could totally afford the dues. And shortly after me, a lot of our Rotaractors followed, and currently we have 2 former Rotaractors on our club board. And then I was, you know, the first club president to have that opportunity, and I'll be president of our foundation next year. One of the reasons they created that category is to have us transition, and we are extremely active in our club. But also another thing we did is board meetings are now no longer in the middle of the day or in person. They're virtual at 5 p.m. when young professionals could join, because we wanted young professionals on the board. Committee calls are always after 5 o'clock. The committees that do meet in person normally meet on weekends. So there was a huge shift on doing things during the day. All we do during the day is our weekly lunch meetings, because we are a lunch club, but everything else around it is in the evening or on weekends, which allows young professionals to join. And I can't say, I've been on the membership committee for my club for the past 5 years. We always have a waiting list. Right now we have a waiting list. So young professionals are joining. And in addition to that, we have our separate WhatsApp group for all members under the age of 40. And so it's always 20 of us on that. Well, the young professionals category is under 35, but the WhatsApp group is under 40. And we always have about 25 just within that age group. And we do our own things also outside as a cohort.
All right. It looks like
Alan?
Alan, you've got your hand up. Yes.
And so Justin and Pallavi, you have like shiny new clubs and everything. So my question is kind of more back to Marilyn, and you were sort of answering it there in your discussion, but a lot of us have these old legacy clubs that just go along. And it seems to me you must have some really intentional and robust method for feeding that pipeline of new members so that you can actually have a class every 6 weeks. What are your, like, what do you do other than just telling people to go talk to your friends and coworkers?
So, you know, if people are really serious about membership growth, is sharing your story, we do substantially invest on PI. And, you know, we do have the great fortune of having an extremely large foundation, 8.75 million. So we do invest on our PR. But and that's what we do. Why would people want to join the Club of DC? Well, because we do this, we do that. We, you know, sponsor all these kids to RILA. We give, you know, 190,000 in grants. Like, we really show what the value of membership is. We have leaders in the community in our club. We meet at the U Club. We have ambassadors, professionals speak. So we really showcase what the club does. And I think that's what a lot of clubs struggle is that they're not sharing their story and sharing the good work. It's like a hidden gem. No, you need to advertise your club. If you go on our website is not like the regular website you see for every club. You know, the People of Action, we actually did invest in that campaign. We did a promotional membership video. So we do have folks that, you know, invite their friends, but we have a lot of walk-ins. And I think it's because we, you know, we're really big on that marketing part of Rotary.
Alan, one thing that I know you said we're shiny penny, but there's we find a connector in your club. And there's a lady in Frederick named Carlos Klein, and Carlos, no, she's a professional volunteer. She's part of the Rotary Club of Frederick, but she literally brings people to the club that she thinks fits them. She brought 10 members to our club. And there's another club in the morning, and she brings people to their club also. Like, so there's another way, like there's other ways of doing it. And one of the big things that we find connectors, and our club is lucky that we have some. I know we're running long. I just wanted to say one thing that we do that seems to have gained traction. One of our members at the beginning of the year challenged our club members to do one of three things: bring a guest to one of our meetings, volunteer to help at a meeting and/or for a service project, and meet somebody in the club who you don't know. And the meet somebody in the club that you don't know has taken off like wildfire, and we've dubbed it the Hadaway Challenge. Her last name is Hadaway, and we have a private Facebook group. And then it's literally, if I go out with Pallavi, we take a selfie, and it's like Hadaway Challenge, just got to know Pallavi. And it has turned into this huge thing. And people that don't post it, like they'll mess up and just post it to their regular page. So literally it's like hashtag Rotary Challenge, hashtag Hadaway Challenge, hashtag that. Like, it's taken on a life of its own for a year, and people are competing for it. But as a club of 115 people, you get to know a lot of different people. And so I don't know the sizes of all of your clubs. Julia, we were talking about some of that earlier. But really that could be, Alan, something also to get to know. But then it's attractive because people post it on their public or their Facebook pages or LinkedIn or whatever. And it gets you talking, like, why are they meeting? Oh, I didn't know they were part of this. So it is, people have seen it, and we've had people be like, well, I want to be with them. I want to do that. Can other people not Hadaway Challenge? And we're like, no, that's a Key City thing. Obviously, we know them, but just wanted to share.
Yeah, thanks very much. And, you know, if anyone needs to drop off, feel free to drop off. I did say this would be 30 minutes, but there's such great discussion, and we're recording it. There is a question in the chat about passport clubs versus impact clubs. I know the difference. If you can explain that and add, does your district have any impact clubs? It's a fairly new thing that Rotary International is promoting.
So I'm not an expert at this. I don't think our district has an impact club. Patrick Logano or the
Yes.
person who owns DAC-DB, he has spoke passionately about impact clubs, and I think they're brilliant. I think they're more of a, well, no, I was going to say something. I should not even say that because that's not a. I know that there are more mission focused in terms of what brings in the members, and then and I think that that is really key, because when we talk about Rotary, we don't, rather than saying we need more members, we need to express the passion that brings us to Rotary, and why we're in it, but and not take the emphasis on numbers as much. And I know that we all use numbers as a gauge for size and of clubs and so forth, and sometimes even measure of success. But I think that the mission focus of impact clubs is really is brilliant, actually. But I really can't speak to much more than that.
Well, I have learned a little bit more about impact clubs, and for all of you on the screen, we're going to be advertising on February 5th. Our neighboring district, District 7430, is doing a webinar on what they call companion clubs, and they are going to feature what they did with creating an impact club in their district. So the way it was explained to me is that it's basically a Rotary Club on steroids related to service. It's purely service, very little in the way of traditional meetings. And, 95% of the time is focused on lots and lots of service activities in the community. And they consider it a more of a non-traditional, family-oriented service type club. And Rotary International is encouraging traditional legacy clubs to think about creating satellites that are impact, less traditional, no meeting, all service, reduced dues, just to generate more interest among young people. So we'll hear more about that in February. Any other questions for our team?
One thing I was going to ask is, what are some challenges that you all have noticed that specifically if there's something that we can, because we chose to speak about personal experience because we're best at what we've done, but we're definitely not experts. So if there's something that you wanted to hear about or had a specific challenge in your club, feel free to ask.
Well, as far as our demographic in our district, because I've done all the statistics, out of the 41 clubs, half of them are 25 members and less. So we have quite a few small clubs. And the most common complaint I know we hear among district leadership is getting club members to rise into leadership positions. A lot of times presidents are served and now they're being asked to serve again because no one else will step up. It's difficult to get officers. It's difficult to get chairs of committees, especially among the smaller clubs. So I don't know if you have any advice about developing leaders.
Appoint more official title tasks. So like a culture chair, a chair of not just membership, the whole membership chair thing. I think everyone in the club should really be ambassadors of their club. So,
Yes.
but they could be, the membership person is really the logistics of putting them into DAC-DB, right? Because we're all ambassadors. So I would do that. And also I think it works best when the president can just really make sure that all the duties are being done rather than doing the duties themselves. And so it's really a matter of, if you have a 4-person club, everyone's a chair of something, right? So people feel happy with titles and so forth, and just holding one another kind of accountable in a friendly way, just so it doesn't put more on one person or a few people.
Thanks, Marilyn or Justin, anything to add to that?
Well, believe it or
Holly's
not, large
great.
clubs also struggle finding leaders. You know, some people want to be presidents, but sometimes they're not the best fit. But what we started doing to diversify our age and demographics on the leadership is being a larger club, we have a lot of committees, and we always now have a co-chair, and we try it to be, when we appoint chairs, it's always a seasoned member. So I'm not going to say older, because seasoned could just mean you've been in Rotary longer. So a seasoned member with a new member, so you could start developing the younger member, not only to use the seasoned member as a mentor, but also, you know, develop leadership skills throughout the club and get to know the ways of the club. And that's worked really well, which is why our board has changed dramatically. You know, last 2 years ago, one of our young pros was the treasurer of our club, and being treasurer of our club means running a large budget. It's not a smaller budget. And now he's an elected board member. So that's worked really well in helping transition, you know, older members who are tired of serving on the same committees as chairs, bringing in new blood, and bringing in new board members. So I think that's worked well. So get those new members engaged and put in them in co-chair positions so they could start getting acquainted.
Our next president, we have our board slate coming up, and she already has the 4 that do not get selected to the board. She already has positions for them, so they stay involved. So yeah,
Do it.
I will put out there, if anybody, because I'm semi-close, if anybody wants to visit Key City, please let me know. Happy to have guests. Myself and another member actually spoke to a club in Howard County, and they have like 3 to 5 people coming to check out our club on Thursday. I know it's hard for some people further up, but it's an open invite. If anybody wants to come check out Key City, more than welcome.
Well, thank you so much. You know, it's 20 after 7. I thank those who hung in here after the half hour. I want to thank all 3 of you for sharing your success stories. This is really, really helpful to get us generating new ideas for our clubs. I am going to stop the recording at this point, and this recording will go on our YouTube channel. So I'm going to stop.